All right, get ready to dive deep, because today it's all about Despicable Me Too. We've got a mountain of material here: IMDb facts and figures, some seriously opinionated user reviews, and even a film analysis to pick apart.
It's always so interesting, to see not just what a film shows us, but also how it connects with audiences and critics. Are the minions just comic relief, or are they the real stars? Is Gru's transformation believable? Those are just some of the questions we'll be tackling today.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with Gru. In the first movie, he was this scheming supervillain aiming to steal the moon. Now fast forward, and he's whipping up homemade jam and dealing with the joys of fatherhood. Some reviewers found this change heartwarming, while others thought it felt a bit off. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a pretty common story, isn't it? The bad guy who becomes, well, maybe not a good guy, but at least not so bad. But what Despicable Me 2 does so well is it embraces that conflict, that tension between who Gru was and who he's trying to be. He doesn't magically transform into the perfect dad overnight. You see him wrestle with his instincts, struggle with the boring parts of family life, and even miss a little bit of that old villainous excitement.
That's a really great point. And we see this play out when Impey Villain League comes knocking, asking him to help recover this dangerous serum. It's like part of him is thrilled to be back in action, while the other part is terrified of putting his new life as a dad at risk.
Exactly. It's not a simple switch from one identity to another. He's constantly juggling those two sides of himself, and that makes him a much more interesting and believable character, someone we can actually relate to.
Absolutely. And it's what allows a film to blend these different genres together so smoothly. We get the heartwarming, funny moments of a family comedy mixed with the thrilling action of a spy movie. Do you see this reflected in the film's style overall?
Oh, definitely. It's all in the details. The animation, for example, plays with those classic cartoon styles, especially during the crazy Minion scenes. You can see the influence of Tex Avery and Chuck Jones in those exaggerated movements and the comedic timing. But then you also get these grand cinematic shots during the spy sequences, almost like you're watching a classic Bond film.
You're so right. And the music emphasizes that mix even more. You've got these big, energetic orchestral scores during the action, and then it transitions into these playful, almost whimsical melodies when Gru's interacting with his daughters. Pharrell Williams, the composer, does an amazing job capturing those changes in tone.
And speaking of playful, we can't ignore the minions in the room, can we? These little yellow guys are undeniably a huge part of why people love this franchise. Some might say they distract from the main story, but it's hard to deny their comedic brilliance.
It's true. Even if their antics sometimes feel like they're just there to fill time, they bring this sense of pure joy and silliness that's just hard to resist. Take their gibberish language, for example. It's not just random sounds. It's actually a carefully created system with its own logic and grammar.
And that's what makes it so clever. You can almost understand what they're saying through their tone of voice, their expressions, and their physical comedy. It's a real testament to the talent of Pierre Coffin and Chris Renaud, the voice actors who also directed the film, and to the animators who brought these little guys to life.
But in this film, we also get a new character who adds her own energy to the mix: Lucy Wilde, voiced by the incredibly talented Kristen Wiig. What did you think? Was she a good addition to the Despicable Me universe?
Lucy is an interesting character because she's not just a love interest for Gru. She's this skilled AVL agent full of enthusiasm and this quirky charm, but she's also fiercely independent and challenges Gru's cynical view of the world.
I see what you mean. Her arrival forces Gru to confront his own emotional walls. He's used to being in control, surrounded by his loyal, if slightly chaotic, minions. Lucy throws him off balance, makes him open up and be a little vulnerable.
Exactly. And this dynamic between them adds a whole new layer of complexity to the story. It's not just about stopping a villain. It's about Gru learning to trust, let go of his past, and embrace the possibility of a future filled with love and real connection.
And that's what I think makes Despicable Me 2 more than just a fun, action-packed sequel. It's a story about personal growth and those complex human relationships. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the villain. Do you think El Marcho, with his over-the-top machismo and love for salsa dancing, measures up to Vector, the villain from the first film?
It's an interesting comparison, because at first glance, El Macho seems like he has all the right stuff to be a memorable villain. He's got a dramatic backstory, an impressive physique. That scene where he rips his shirt off at the salsa festival is certainly hard to forget. And this grand plan to unleash an army of purple monsters. But does he really come across as a truly formidable antagonist? I'm not so sure.
And why is that, do you think? Is it his motivation, the way his plan plays out, or maybe something else altogether?
I think it's a combination of things. Vector, even though he was kind of nerdy, had this clear, understandable motivation. He wanted to prove himself as a supervillain. His plan to steal the moon, as crazy as it sounds, was actually clever and well executed. We understood what he was after, and even though we knew he was the bad guy, there was a part of us that kind of wanted to see him succeed, just a little bit.
Yeah, he was that underdog villain you couldn't help but kind of root for, even though you knew you shouldn't. El Macho, on the other hand, feels a bit unclear. His motivations are murky. Is it revenge? Is he after world domination? Does he just need to prove how manly he is? The film never really makes it clear.
Exactly. And his big plan, as visually impressive as it is, lacks the ingenuity of Vector's scheme. Creating an army of mutated monsters is a pretty standard villain move. It's big, it's loud, it's destructive, but it doesn't feel particularly original or clever.
And speaking of unoriginal, there's that whole awkward subplot with Gru's daughter Margo developing a crush on El Macho's son. It felt forced, like the writers felt they had to add some teenage drama. Did that work for you?
Not really. It felt like a missed opportunity. Instead of focusing on this rather superficial teenage romance, they could have explored Dr. Nefario's departure and eventual return more deeply.
Yeah.
That had the potential to be really emotionally impactful.
You're right. The conflict between Dr. Nefario's loyalty to Gru and his longing for those good old days of being a villain could have been a truly compelling subplot. We see hints of it, but it's never fully explored.
And Russell Brand, as the voice of Dr. Nefario, brings this brilliant blend of grumpiness and vulnerability to the character. Imagine the comedic and dramatic possibilities if they had given him a more central role in the conflict.
Absolutely. But even with those missed opportunities, Despicable Me 2 is still a visual treat. The animation is top-notch, with incredibly detailed environments, expressive characters, and of course those wonderfully chaotic Minion scenes.
Oh, there's that scene where the Minions are being chased through a shopping mall, and it's a masterclass in comedic timing and visual gags. The way they interact with everyday objects, their signature gibberish reactions, it's pure animated brilliance. And it brings us back to the undeniable appeal of those Minions. Some critics might argue that they're overused, but their popularity is undeniable.
Yeah.
Why do you think they resonate so strongly with audiences?
I think it's that mix of childlike innocence and mischievous glee. They're adorable, they're silly, and they get away with things we all secretly wish we could. Plus, there's something universally appealing about their gibberish language. It goes beyond cultural barriers and lets everyone in on the joke.
It's almost like they've tapped into this primal form of humor. Physical comedy and nonsensical sounds that make us laugh no matter how old we are or where we come from.
Exactly. They're the embodiment of pure, unadulterated fun. And while some might argue that they overshadow the main characters, I think they serve a really important purpose in the film's overall story.
How so?
While they provide this stark contrast to Gru's often brooding and cynical nature, they remind him, and us, that life doesn't always have to be so serious. It's okay to let loose, be silly, and embrace the absurdity of it all.
That's a really insightful observation. They're like these little agents of chaos, injecting joy and laughter into even the most tense situations.
Precisely. And in a way, they represent that inner child that Gru has kept hidden for so long. As he learns to embrace fatherhood and love, he also rediscovers the importance of playfulness and letting go of control.
It's a subtle but powerful theme that runs throughout the film, and it speaks to the film's overall message about finding balance in life. It's about embracing responsibility without losing sight of the things that bring us joy and connect us to our inner child.
And that, I think, is what makes Despicable Me 2 more than just a fun popcorn flick. It's a story that resonates on multiple levels, offering something for everyone in the audience.
You're absolutely right. It manages to entertain, make us laugh, and maybe even tug at our heartstrings a little. But the question remains, does it live up to the legacy of the original?
That's the big question, right? Does it capture that same magic as the first one?
Yeah, it's a tough act to follow. Sequels always have that challenge, trying to balance what people loved about the original with something new. And Despicable Me 2, it definitely delivers on the entertainment side. The animation is fantastic, the humor is spot on, and those Minions, well, they just keep on delivering. But does it reach that same level of emotional depth as the first film? I'd say it goes for a different kind of depth.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
So the first film had this really beautiful arc of redemption. You saw Gru transform from villain to this, well, father figure, and it was unexpected and really moving. The sequel, While it touches on similar themes of family and love, it leans more into the action comedy aspects.
So you're saying it focuses less on Gru's inner transformation and more on the external challenges he faces this time around.
Exactly. The emotional core this time is really about Gru's relationships. His bond with his adopted daughters grows stronger, he falls in love with Lucy, and he even navigates this, well, pretty complicated dynamic with Dr. Nefario.
It's like the sequel is exploring what happens after those choices Gru made in the first film. He's not just figuring out who he is anymore. He's learning how to handle love, responsibility, and all the intricacies of family life.
That's a great way to put it. And while it may not have the same emotional impact as that redemption arc in the original, it offers a different kind of satisfaction. It's about seeing Gru grow as a person, learning to put the needs of others before his own.
And maybe that's why the Minions' role feels even more important in this film. They represent that pure joy, that reminder for Gru to not take himself too seriously.
Absolutely. They're the perfect counterpoint to Gru's cynicism, the embodiment of childlike wonder. And let's face it, they're just plain hilarious.
Speaking of hilarious, what do you make of the criticism that the Minions overshadow the main plot? Do you think they get too much screen time in this sequel?
It's a fair point. There are definitely times where their antics feel a bit unnecessary, like that whole subplot where they're kidnapped and turned into those purple monsters. It's visually entertaining, sure, but it doesn't really add much to the main story.
It almost feels like the filmmakers knew they had struck gold with these little yellow guys and just wanted to give the audience more of what they loved, even if it meant sacrificing some of the story's cohesiveness.
That's a common trap for sequels, isn't it? The urge to capitalize on what worked in the first film can sometimes lead to an overload of fan-favorite elements.
But honestly, who can resist those minions? They're like these adorable little gremlins with a knack for chaos and this uncanny ability to make us laugh with just a few gibberish words.
And that gibberish language, it's pure genius. It's so carefully crafted with its own internal logic and grammar, yet it feels completely natural and spontaneous.
It really shows the talent of the voice actors and animators who brought them to life. They've created these characters that are both universally relatable and completely unique.
And their popularity, well, it speaks for itself. The Minions have become this global phenomenon going beyond the film to become these pop culture icons.
Which leads us to a really interesting question. What's next for Despicable Me? If you are in charge of Despicable Me 3, what direction would you take the story?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's so many possibilities. We could dive deeper into Gru's past, explore those events that turned him into the villain he used to be. Imagine discovering hidden connections to other characters, revealing a backstory that adds so much depth to the Despicable Me universe.
That's a great idea. Or we could finally get that long-awaited Minion origin story. Where did these little yellow guys come from? What's the secret behind their gibberish language and their unwavering loyalty to all things despicable?
The possibilities are endless. We could see them evolving from these single-celled organisms, drawn to Gru's villainy like moths to a flame. Or maybe they're the result of some crazy lab experiment gone wrong, given an insatiable love for bananas and a fondness for mischief.
And, of course, we can't have a Despicable Me film without a new villain, right? Someone who truly challenges Gru, pushes him to face his past and fight for the family he's built.
Maybe a villain who's mastered manipulation, who preys on Gru's weaknesses and threatens to destroy everything he's worked for.
The stakes would be incredibly high. But amidst all the action and chaos, we'd still need those heartwarming moments of family, those reminders that even the most despicable among us can find love and redemption.
Exactly, because at its heart, that's what makes the Despicable Me franchise so special. It reminds us that we're all capable of change, that love and family can overcome even the darkest impulses, and that sometimes a little bit of Minion mayhem is just what we need to brighten our day.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this challenge. What despicable adventure do you envision for Gru and his unconventional family? Let your imagination run wild, and who knows, maybe your idea will inspire the next chapter in this beloved franchise. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, even a supervillain can have a heart of gold.